wanted to real quick get with you and show you what we're going to be working with today. We're actually going to be doing some silver stripping. And I saw a couple videos on this. They weren't real explanatory, so I'm more or less kind of going to be experimenting. And they also used pure sulfuric acid, 96% sulfuric acid, which I didn't have. So I have this stuff, which is, I would say, I don't know, 90, 93, somewhere in there. So I'm going to use that. And what it is, I don't know if this is called piranha solution or what they call it, but anyway, it's 3/4 sulfuric acid and 1/4 nitric acid. And I'm looking for a quicker way and an easier way to strip the silver off of my silver plated stuff. Now, I don't know with the expense of this if this is going to be cost effective or not, but I figured I wanted to give it a try anyway. It looked pretty easy. You are, however, working with sulfuric acid, which is very dangerous, and nitric acid, which is very dangerous. So, and when you mix these two, being that this has other stuff in it, this is actually a red color or a pinkish red color when you pour it out, and then when you add the nitric acid to it, it will actually turn kind of a yellow, or pretty yellow color, but it'll fume a lot. So you want to do this out in the open air, or at least have a fan behind you, or do it in a vent hood or whatever. And I'm not suggesting you do any of this, because these are two very dangerous acids. I just want to see how it works, see if it's faster, see if it's worth the effort, or if I should just stick with doing it with the salt water, reverse electroplating, which is also takes a long time and is kind of a hassle, but it also doesn't cost anything to speak of. So anyway, that's what we're going to be working with today. I'm going to go ahead and mix this stuff up and probably skip around a lot with this a little bit, because like I said, this is going to be a trial and error process. So if you ever need sulfuric acid for something, I mean, it is in this. You can try to purify it or distill it out, or do a peroxide method to clean out the impurities, but most of the time you can use it just like it is. I mean, it's not gonna, for the time and effort it takes to purify it, you might as well go ahead and buy pure sulfuric acid. But anyway, I'll get back to you when we get started. And like I said, this is going to be kind of a hit and miss thing. I also want to see what kind of yield I get off of it, because I know what I get off of it when I do it with the salt water and reverse electroplating. So we'll get back to you as we start getting into this. Okay, well, we are slowly but surely moving along. This seems to be working pretty good. I mean, it looks to me like it's getting most of the silver off of this. I mean, they look a little nicer than when you do it with the salt water, but it appears to be down to the metal on most of this. So I leave them till they all look the same, till there's no color spots on them, and then I move them over to here and rinse them. Now in the bottom of this is something that I have no idea if it's silver coming off when I rinse it the first time or what, but anyway, we'll figure that out later on. You also want to be really, really careful. Remember, whenever you're working with sulfuric acid, you have to be very careful with water. You don't want to get any water in that, because it can just erupt. So we're going to continue moving on, finish these up, and then we'll go through the process of diluting this off and dropping our silver out of it. And hopefully this is going to yield at least the same as it yields when I do it with the reverse plating with the salt water, or electrolysis, or whatever that's called. And this just is, I mean, you just put it in there and let it go. Granted, you are using acids and you're using stuff that you have to neutralize and dispose of, but it's easier. Just got to be really, really careful when you're doing this, because sulfuric is a bad deal. It likes to disintegrate organic matter, so put that together with a little bit of nitric acid and you just really need to be careful with it. So we'll get back to you when we get done with this, and when we are going to go ahead and half this solution out and then neutralize it. Alrighty, back at you in a bit. Okay, I just wanted to show you real quick what's going on when I rinse this. And what I'm doing is I'm taking it out of the nitric acid and sulfuric acid solution that's taking the silver plating off, and then I move it over to here. Now when I put it in here, I get a reaction, probably from the water, but it seems like almost like stuff is peeling off. So I don't know if that's more silver coming off or plating that's underneath, but that's what's putting that black, almost looks like a precipitant in the bottom of this first rinse jar. So I do that till I don't see anything left on it that's kind of boiling off actually in this water. Then I rinse it again in this water, just to make sure. Take it and you can handle it then, but it's almost like there's still a film on it, and I'm not sure if that is still silver or what. So I'm going to hang on to these pieces just to be sure, because you can see where I kind of wipe that with my finger and it comes off. I probably should have gloves on, but in any case, I just wanted to see and show you what we're doing here. I'm going to take the rest of these out. I mean, they look stripped, but like I said, I'm not certain about this method because it's the first time I'm doing it. And you can see when I take this over here, and I put it in here, it's going to boil a little. And all this flaky falls off and goes down to the bottom. I'm not sure if that's just the secondary plating on these or whatever that's falling off. But anyway, we'll keep everything and do a little more research and see what we can find out about that. Alrighty, well, we are down to our last couple of pieces, and I've noticed that there seems to be a little fine film on them even after I take them out of this and this. So what I'm going to do, this is my first rinse water, this is my second rinse water. I'm also going to use this water to dilute that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook you up here, and I'm going to put my gloves on. And I'm going to take my little other glass dish over there and put some of this water in it, and take this little acid brush that I've shaved down to make the bristles stiffer, and I'm going to scrub those off in that water first. That way if there's any silver left on them, it'll be in the water that we're going to dilute our solution with. So let me get that set up and we'll go ahead and do that. Now is we're going to take these one at a time, and we're just going to put them in here. See that? I don't know if you can see it, but it's all brushing off of there. So I am thinking that that is just leftover powdered silver that has stayed stuck to these after I take them out. I'm not going to take any chances because it's all going to go back in the same place in the same rinse water. But I know there's acid in this water from rinsing, and there's acid in the other water, so I am putting my gloves on, which I probably should have done all along, working with sulfuric acid, but I try to be very, very careful when I'm doing this. So you see now that looks kind of coppery and bright without all that black on it. So we'll set these off over here, and we'll just continue to do this while our last pieces are soaking through. Now I can say, after having done this water, or number 2 rinse water that I'm doing this in, has gotten considerably darker. So something oxidized on these after we took them out and rinsed them. And if it's silver, I certainly don't want to waste it. What's the point of doing all this? We don't get as much as we can back out of it. So I'm going to leave this sit for right now, which I don't know if you can see, but it got considerably darker. And I'm going to get back to doing this, finish these off, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, we finished everything up. As you can see, our stuff appears to be all stripped off here. I did my last little real thin coating one to make sure my acid was still good. Over here we have a couple, and I believe that this is silver that hasn't completely dissolved yet, that's left on these over here, which I'll just keep them aside for now. So what we did was we took 200 milliliters of water out of my second rinse jar, we put it in here, then I took the brush and brushed all that stuff off in here because it had a little film on it, and I wanted to be sure I wasn't wasting any silver, because like I said, I haven't done this yet, this method. This is our sulfuric nitric acid mix. That's our first rinse water and our second rinse water. Now, according to what I've seen, you're supposed to do half again the amount of water, then slowly add the nitric acid to it, because it's going to be an ectothermic reaction. You're going to get a lot of heat when that water starts going in. I'm going to use this and this for my water, because I believe both of them contain silver. So I'm going to go ahead and get my gloves on, and we'll go ahead and get started doing this and just see what we get. Okay, we got about, I don't know, 250, about 260 mils in each one in this one, so 260 mils. We'll put 130 of this in here. We'll spray this out. And we're going to stir this one up because it's got a lot of sediment in it. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to split this, which is about 200 mils, so we'll put 100 mils each in these. And that way, if any of that was silver that we left behind, it's in there now. Now, very slowly, we have to do this. We are going to get a reaction. This one. More in this one. getting a lot of heat now. A lot of heat. The video I saw, this is going to be a pretty dirty solution, so I'm sure you'll have to clean it out or refine the silver again after, but we're just going to keep going and see what happens. I'm doing this pretty slow because it is reacting. If I dumped a lot more in than I'm doing, I'd probably get a lot more of a reaction. And I do have a fan behind me blowing the gas off so that it's not coming up in my face. Because it does look like it's starting to generate a little NOx. And we do have quite a bit of heat. A lot of heat right now. Okay, so I'm going to let that react for a little bit and then we'll get back to you in a little bit. Okay, we're still getting a lot of heat and I am mixing these up. I didn't see them do this, but I'm doing it, and it seems to be redissolving everything that was solid and also putting off a little bit of NOx. But like I said, I am behind it. I do have a fan behind me blowing this off. Probably should have my mask on, but you wouldn't be able to hear me. And I don't know if you can see that coming off there. Can you see that NOx coming off? So I'm sure that's just the copper and silver and everything else redissolving that was in that other mixture. And anyway, we're going to let this calm down a little bit. Let the reaction slow down, and then we're going to drop it with salt water. What I use is I just get a fine grade of pickling salt with no iodine because it's just pure salt, and we'll make up a solution of that and we'll dump it in there and drop our silver chloride and see what we end up with. So we'll get back to you when this stuff settles down. Okay, here we are, we're back. I've made a completely saturated solution of salt water, and this is going to be the money shot. Let's see what we get. Beautiful silver chloride. Well, apparently it works. I'm going to go ahead and add a little more salt water. See if we get any more precipitant. good. That's what it was supposed to do. Now the only thing left to do is let this settle down overnight. And then we will have to convert our silver chloride and see how much silver we got. I'll put a little bit more of this just because I have it, just to make sure. I don't see anything else forming. So I think we're probably good to go on that. So that'll wrap up this portion. And we'll have to do the conversion and melt and see what we ended up with. Okay, so here's our silver chloride after our first rinse. It's got to settle down some. And we're going to rinse this a couple more times. And then we will be doing our conversion with sodium hydroxide to change it to silver oxide, and then we'll change it to metallic silver after that with a little bit of either glycerin or Karo syrup or sugar water or something along those lines, whatever I can put my hands on. Anyway, we'll get back to you. Like I said, I'm going to do this a couple more times, rinse it, let it settle, rinse it and let it settle, and then we'll do the conversion. Alrighty, well, we've rinsed our silver chloride and the sun has turned it a little bit purple, but in any case we are ready to convert our silver chloride to silver oxide. We're going to use some sodium hydroxide to do that, and then after that we'll use some vegetable glycerin to convert it to metallic silver. You want to do this, so I've seen, until you get all the white out. So you want to mix it up really good. And you do get a little heat from this. You'll get more heat when you add the sugar or the vegetable glycerin or syrup or whatever you choose to use. Try VG this time and see what happens. Oh yeah, there it goes. I think that actually works better than sugar water. Yeah, that's a nice reaction. And it's not all, sometimes when you put the syrup or sugar, not sugar water, but like Karo syrup, if you use that, when you put it in there, it kind of globs up on your stirring stick. Put a little bit more. And it didn't take all that much either, just took a little bit. Yeah, I think I like that a lot better than sugar. Yeah, it's hot. Very hot. Anyway, if you can see now we've converted that to metallic silver. When this reaction stops, I'll rinse it several times, and then we'll dry it and weigh it and see what we ended up with. Okay, this is our fourth rinse. And I always use pour-off jars. I'm trying to get away from filters. But I've got one pour-off jar over here that I'm going to let settle because I know there's a little bit of silver coming out. The same thing here. I've got another pour-off jar. And I'm just going to pour this off, and then I'm going to rinse this with a little bit of hydrochloric acid and put it on some heat for a bit. Got some floaters. And then we'll rinse it again about 3 more times with boiling water. And then we'll dry it out and see what we ended up with. It looks fairly decent. It might actually be a little better than doing it with the salt water. Silver coming out, but that's alright. That's why we use a pour-off jar. Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit of HCl. Put it in here to dissolve any caca. Let that sit for a little bit. Clean up, and then we'll be ready to go. I'll get back to you when it's dried out and we have a final weight. Alrighty, there is our scrap, and there is our dried silver powder, and it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just take this in, weigh it up. Hopefully we got somewhere between 7.5 and 10 grams, which is what I would have got if I did it with the salt water. Reverse electroplating. So let's take her in where it's cool. It's hot as fire out here right now, and we will go ahead and weigh this up and see what we got. Okay, so we are inside where it's cool. I brushed out our little jar, got our silver ready to weigh. Our pure silver powder. This doesn't have to be refined again, it was clean. And our little bottle weighs 55.05 grams with the lid. So let's see what we got. $64.77, so we've got 64.75. Okay, so we'll go 64.75 minus 55.05 equals 9.7 grams. So that's actually really good. That's probably a little more than I get when I'm doing it with the salt water. I don't know why, but that was right what I was figuring at. I was figuring between 7 and 10 grams. We got 9.7 grams of pure silver. It was pretty easy to do. Just have to be careful with those acids. So I think I have a new method for doing my plated silver. I think from now on I'm just going to strip it out like that, unless I feel like sitting in the house and doing something, but that's pretty good. Pretty good. Alrighty, well, we'll be back at you when we do some other videos. Got to think of something else to do. I actually have more silver to do, so maybe we'll come up with another silver video. Have a good one.